This is the new Radioddity X1 Pro handheld HT GMRS Walkie Talkie, and in this video I'm going to tell you all about it. The cost for this new GMRS radio is, as of today, about $56 of monies, and I will put an affiliate link to this radio in the information section of this video below that, when clicked upon or tapped, will allow you to purchase the X1 Pro or look up its details and technical specifications. And yes, my friends at the Radioddity Corporation of Saigon did send me this radio at no cost so that I could share it with you, my favorite viewer. So when you purchase the new Radioddity X1 Pro handheld HT GMRS Walkie Talkie radio, in the box you will receive a user manual written in very good English, 9 pages long, and it goes over all of the functions and all of the features of the radio. Nothing more, nothing less. You will receive this USB charging brick and this USB-A's to USB-C's charging cable. You will receive a belt clip that can be used for attaching the radio to your belt, thusly allowing you to really impress the chicks. You will receive this very handsome and very stylish quick release type wrist strap, which fell apart into several pieces the very first time I touched it. I will make a separate instructional video showing how to put it all back together, if I ever figure it out. You will receive an antenna, floppy in demeanor and tuned specifically for the GMRS frequencies. You will receive a battery that holds 3,000 milliamp hours of electricities, which is more than many of those lesser cheap Chinese radios, and this almost makes up for the very disappointing wrist strap fiasco. And you will receive the new Radioddity X1 Pro handheld HT GMRS Walkie Talkie radio. On the top of the radio, you will find a power and volume control knob, a very bright LED flashlight. This is mayhaps the brightest flashlight on a radio that I have ever seen, and it almost makes up for the very disappointing wrist strap fiasco. You'll find a transmit and receive indicator LED and a hole for the antenna. And I should point out that although this is an SMA connector, its gender is opposite of most, but not all, handheld radios. On this side, you will find a soft, rubberized push-to-talk trigger with very nice tactile nublets and 2 dual-function rubberized control buttons. On this side and behind this magic door, you will find a standard K1 type connector hole for an external microphone, headset, or other various accessories. On the front, you will find a speaker and microphone hole, a fairly large screen, and 7 very simple to use rubberized control buttons. On the rear and behind this magic door, you will find a USB-C's hole for charging the battery and an LED charging indicator. And on the bottom, you will find this very secure clip for battery retention, which, once successfully engaged, is very secure, and by that I mean good luck getting this off without ripping out a fingernail. The radio has a very strong ABS case, and it does feel very substantial and rugged. Everything is tight, and it does not feel like a toy like many of those lesser cheap Chinese radios often do. And as already mentioned, this is a GMRS radio. So just like all GMRS radios, it comes pre-programmed with the standard 22 GMRS channels and the basic 8 repeater channels. This means that you can use this radio right out of the box. No programming, no fussing, and no tears of rage. Just take it out of the box, turn it on, pick a channel, and talk. And because this is a GMRS radio, just like all other GMRS radios, it is compatible with and can talk to all FRS radios. Those are the cheap radios that you find at Walmart, and of course it can talk with all other GMRS radios, irregardlessly of what brand they are. And no license is required to purchase, own, or possess this radio. Although if you do plan to make use of the push-to-talk trigger, the FCC's says thou must first purchase a GMRS license from the FCC's website, which will cost 35 monies. Anyway, this radio is repeater capable, but by default, the repeater channels are disabled to help reduce confuculation. And in addition to the GMRS frequencies, the radio can also receive the NOAA weather channels and NOAA weather alerts. However, this radio does not have any custom channel memory slots, so you cannot store any additional custom repeater channels, thusly making the radio even more simpler to use and another way of reducing the risk of confuculation. As you can see, the radio has a fairly large... I almost forgot. The radio has a fairly large and easy to read color screen with a new and very unique screen layout that I have never seen before in my 40 plus years as a radio expert. Everything on the screen is very easy to see and well spaced out, making for an overall non-confuculatory look. And when in bright direct sunlight, the screen works fairly well, but only if you hold the radio perpendicular to the angle of the sun. If you hold the radio vertically in relation to the apogee of the sun, it does not work very well at all. But as long as you keep it perpendicular to the angle of the sun, the screen works as one would expect. And no, the screen does not actually flicker like that in real life. That perceived flickering is just an artifact of my camera's framing rates combined with the asynchronicities of the LED screen refreshments rate. This radio is not chirp compatible, nor does Radioddity make any programming software for the radio, and this is because it seems that the overall design theme of this radio is non-confuculative simplicity. And this explains why the radio does not have any extra memory slots for storing more repeaters or custom channels, and why the repeaters aren't enabled by default, because all of that would make the radio less simpler and more confuculatory. And this simplicity seems unusual for a radio with the Pro moniker on the box, which usually means the radio has more confuculation-inducing options, bells, and whistles. But I should point out that when you're out in the fields using a radio during strenuous activities or deep into milsim maneuvers with your overweight and out-of-shape G.I. Joe friends, simplicity can be a strategic advantage. Anyway, as mentioned only moments ago, the screen has a very simple layout, and the menus and options are also extremely non-confuculative and are very simple to use. Indeed, in my not very humble opinion, I truly believe that it is very likely that even an idiot could use this radio. And as anyone that actually ever leaves their parents' basement knows, perhaps the most important attribute for an adventure radio is its ability to function underwater. And this radio has an IP67 waterproofness rating, meaning that it can survive under 3 feet of water for up to 30 minutes. And based on my very tightly controlled scientific testing, this claim of waterproofness does appear to be true, making this radio safe to play with whilst lounging in the bathtub. The radio has 3 built-in noise reduction levels that you can turn off or on and set at 3 different strength levels, but the noise reduction is for the receiving audio only. It does not reduce the background noise of what you transmit. When the noise reduction is enabled, it does a very good job of removing all of the static and background noise from whatever it is you're listening to, and it even removes their Roger beeps. However, if you turn the noise reduction up to full strength at level 3, the voice of the people you are listening to will begin to sound a bit digital or robotic. And this radio can optionally record everything that it receives. Recording is disabled by default, but once enabled, it can store up to 20 recordings, each up to 1 minute long. And you can listen to the saved recordings by just pressing the big orange replay button and scrolling through the recordings, newest to oldest.
If I like it, I'll buy it. And the neat thing about that is that HRO, you'll be able to, I didn't have my ham radio license.
The radio also has a scanning feature to scan through all of the channels, and it scans at a very brisk rate when compared to most other lesser, cheap Chinese radios. And yes, as with all high-end GMRS radios, this radio does have a Roger beep, and it sounds like this. The box says that this radio outputs up to 7 watts of RF electricities, and even though in most situations when using a handheld radio, the power output is the least important factor in determining how many FARs a handheld radio will give, unless you connect the radio to a large external antenna. In that case, more power will help make up for all of the power that will be lost because you can't afford to use good quality coax cable. So in such a case, when using cheap cable to connect to an external antenna, more power would actually help this radio give more FARs. Anyway, let's see what this baby can do. And as you can see with your very own ocular juice balls on GMRS channel 16, this radio outputs just over 7.5 watts. So official kudos to the Radioddity Corporation of Shanghai for not only delivering what they promised on the box, but for also adding an extra few drops more, unlike many of those other less reputable, cheap Chinese radio companies that often overpromise and underdeliver. This level of truth and integrity now fully makes up for the wrist strap debacle from earlier today. But the question that everyone wants to know is, how many FARs does it talks? And the answer is that this radio gives the exact same FARs as every other handheld HD GMRS Walkie Talkie that I have ever tested, because they all give virtually the exact same FARs irregardlessly of whether they output 3 watts or 7.5 watts. But let's just make sure for science. So to make sure, I will use this radio right here to call my friend Conrad, the chef, at his house 13 miles away. No repeater, just this radio on a simplex channel talking direct to Conrad's base station radio with a large antenna on the roof, 13 miles away. And I should point out that because the Not a Rubicon production studio is on my villa, which is located above the fruited plain and amongst the amber waves of grain on a purple mountain majesty, my elevation is about 1,000 feet higher than where Conrad, the chef, is down in the barrio below, giving us good, but not perfect, line of sight. Anyway, this is the standard FARs and audio quality test that I do with all handheld HT GMRS walkie-talkie radios, and this is how this radio sounds from 13 miles away.
Chef Pro, how does this new Radioddity X1 Pro GMRS handheld HT GMRS radio sound from 13 miles away? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So if you are looking for a very simple and very easy to use 7-watt handheld HT GMRS walkie-talkie radio, then the new, simple to use Radioddity X1 Pro might just be the GMRS radio for you.